Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the new generation took over the WWF. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
I hope you're ready for high-impact power maneuvers like only Big Daddy Cool can do.
Maneuvers. Joe Giammatteo.
Well, guys, we lost a very close friend of the podcast over the weekend. Very sad news. Please join me in a 10-bell salute to the WWE Network.
Thank you for that. We will all miss the WWE Network, especially now that we see the cock is being slightly picky about what it airs.
And I'm guessing you guys upgraded to the large cock, like myself?
Yes, yes, large cock for me. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one pay-per-view at a time. That's right, this is one of our special pay-per-view episodes, so for our new listeners out there, there's some different rules here. There will not be a jobber of the week because there are no jobbers, and we don't get as in-depth into the matches as we do on Raw. We kind of just go over them real quick, and we give our personal star ratings on these. Whenever we do our star ratings, we judge everything. We judge storytelling, we judge wrestling, we judge everything that you could possibly think of in these matches. And then Joseph hits us with the opinions of Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer and his star ratings. And Joe, you were saying earlier, Meltzer only goes off of wrestling. He doesn't take anything else into account?
Yeah, for his star ratings, it's just wrestling. He'll give some other comments here and there, but the star rating is purely just the wrestling.
Okay. And it also should be noted that while Meltzer will get into negatives and occasionally go into some pretty high numbers and fractional stars and things like that, we stick to a straight dud through 5 rating. We don't get into fractions here. And I think that's about it. Am I missing anything? No highlights and lowlights at the end of the show. We'll get into our new section at the end there. I can't wait to talk to you guys about that at the end, but am I missing anything?
I think we're good.
Yeah, we're ready to go.
All right, so in this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about Survivor Series 1995. This pay-per-view aired November 19th, 1995, and was recorded at the US Air Arena. Now, the US Air Arena is in Landover, Maryland, and anybody that watched this pay-per-view is going to be a little bit confused because they made a big deal out of this being filmed in suburban Washington, D.C., Well, suburban Washington, D.C. is fucking Landover, Maryland. Don't let them fool you there. And features Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, and Mr. Perfect on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. First things first, guys. Have you ever seen this pay-per-view before?
At least not to my memory.
Yeah, not recently.
I'm pretty sure I did back in the day. I can't say exactly when, but something tells me that this is one of the ones I might have rented and gotten drunk and watched in my teenage years. I'm not sure. Fuzzy times.
95?
No, like later on, Went to the Purple Cow and rented it on a Friday night.
Gotcha. I thought you meant you were drinking back in 95. I was like,
No.
That would have been a bit young.
Well.
That explains a lot.
Well, I was immediately happy in our intro here to see Mr. Perfect, first order of business, coming out to join commentary, one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. It was very good to see and hear from him here. We get a nice little video package about Bret Hart and Diesel. And honestly, this did do a good job of getting me excited for this match, or that match, I should say, with the exception of Diesel's speaking parts. Once again, a little lackluster there. I was very happy to see Jim Ross. I'm looking forward to his commentary. And just very briefly, guys, Ryan first, what did you think when this opened with Mr. Perfect coming out?
You know, I have to say the very first thing that came to my mind was here we are in the, tail end of 95, and things are already starting to look up with Mr. Perfect. They didn't make it very clear if he is actually coming back as a wrestler or is just a personality, but regardless, I love to have Mr. Perfect back, so I'm thrilled.
Yeah, same here. It was a nice surprise. It was actually a total surprise. Nobody saw that coming. It was out of nowhere, and it kicked off the show, so that was nice to see. And when they went over Bret Hart's accolades, he's really got a nice resume going at this time. He was basically two-time everything. Tag team champ, IC, and heavyweight champ, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was, I gotta say, just the intro, we're not even getting into the first match yet, just the intro was a roller coaster of emotions for me. Getting excited about that match a little bit more than I was before, seeing Mr. Perfect, seeing Jim Ross.
I agree. The commentary team, especially adding Jim Ross, that's another surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we had all of these highs only to get hit with the line, and now Marty Jannetty coming out for our first match of the night.
That music.
The Body Donnas. This Survivor Series 4-on-4 match team is consisting of Skip Radford, Dr. Tom Pritchard, the 1-2-3 Kid. They are there with Sonny and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. They defeat the Underdogs, consisting of Marty Jannetty, Hakushi, Barry Horowitz, and Bob Holly, in 18 minutes and 45 seconds. I thought it was funny that everybody had to run around Hakushi. Like he's trying to make a dignified walk to the ring and he's got everybody passing him on the entryway. It just kind of was a funny way to start this for me. I didn't quite care for Sonny introducing the Body Donnas, and I sure as shit did not like the 1-2-3 Kid coming out to the $1 Million music. That disgusted me more than just about anything could have with this. Razor Ramon coming out after the 1-2-3 Kid made sense, but for me didn't add anything to their situation. That didn't get me any more invested in what's going on between them. And then the match began. Radford looked pretty good during his first time in the ring. I was left wanting more of that. I was pleasantly surprised with his performance there. I loved the crowd chant for Barry Horowitz. I loved that leg sweep reversal from Hakushi on Skip. That was a tight-ass move there. I was genuinely confused at Skip collapsing after giving Hakushi a Frankensteiner. I didn't know what happened there. But I did love Skip holding Horowitz in the corner by the waistband of his trunks so that the ref couldn't see it. This was something that was really subtle and just kind of really low-key, and if you blinked, you would have missed it, but I thought that was some pretty smart storytelling there. Radford lifting Barry Horowitz out of the pin repeatedly was pissing me off, and even with the explanation that Skip wanted Horowitz for himself, still no need for that, I think. I loved Mr. Perfect saying, "That'll break your neck," when Jannetty performed a rocker dropper on Skip. Very apropos. And that was the last enjoyable thing until the end of the match, when we at least got the 1-2-3 Kid's music for his win over Jannetty to round this out. So I'm going to point it out just once here in our first match so that I don't have to repeat it again. I do not like these Survivor Series 4-on-4 matches as a whole. It doesn't matter who's in them. I'm already down on them just to begin with by their very nature. That being said, this definitely was not the worst Survivor Series match I've ever seen. I came away from it wanting to see more Radford. I enjoyed Hakushi's time in the ring. That was all good stuff there. But I was kind of annoyed at the amount of attention and standing that Marty Jannetty got out of it. This is it's like it's still part of his push, even though he's in there with 7 other people. Like, they're still giving him all of this ring time. But, again, this wasn't bad as far as Survivor Series matches go, and I'm going to go with 2 stars here. Joe, what did you think?
Starting with the entrance, obviously we get Marty's music, which immediately puts me in a bad mood, but I think that I'm just going to accept it from now on because this seems to be the norm right now, that we kick off shows with Marty Jannetty. You know, to be fair, that he is over with the crowd. I mean, they're into it.
Mm-hmm. And it's certainly better than ending with Marty Jannetty.
True.
Yeah, that's true.
And I liked Sunny introducing the Body Donnas. I just like her running her yapper down that aisle. I think it's funny. And I think that everything she did in this match was pretty good. She was, you know, yelling and screaming the whole time. She actually interfered a little bit. I'm surprised Jim Ross didn't say his line, "That Jezebel." "That'll break your neck" from Mr. Perfect was hilarious. That he's definitely just... Kurt Hennig is known as like a big ribber, I guess. You know, you hear that from shoot interviews. So he definitely threw that in just to rib McMahon, I'm sure. And I really like Hakushi. I came out of this saying Hakushi is great, should have been a babyface from the beginning, and I think it's just a missed opportunity by WWF to not really take advantage of that opportunity with him. And I've heard Bruce Pritchard say that when Hakushi came over to the WWF, he wasn't as big as they thought he was. Like, that's always the knock on Hakushi, and I'm just thinking, like, how the hell did you not realize that before?
And he's not that small, really.
No, he's not. And I don't know. It's kind of a shame because I really liked him in this match, and I like him in most of his matches, to be honest. And I think everybody did very well in this. The only thing that kind of bothered me in this match was the 1-2-3 Kid is a heel now, so the only heel move he does is he does these karate moves and stances after every move.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll evolve into something else. I don't know, but I gave it 3 stars. I don't think it was great, but it was certainly better than I expected. I think they did a good job of building on the Kid as a heel. His music is still too upbeat for this current heel character, so maybe they should think about changing that, but not
to the $1 Million music.
Ted DiBiase's. No.
Oh, God.
I'm going to start off with saying we saw some people we haven't seen in a while, like Rad Redford and, to a greater extent, the Doctor of Desire, Tom Pritchard. I mean, I don't think we've seen him for like 6 months.
No.
So, yeah, it was kind of, it was exciting to see him because, you know, Pritchard always does a very solid job in the ring. You know, there's nothing to complain about his ring work. And Rad Radford worked really well with Pritchard. You know, they start things off, and I'm in complete agreement with you, Bartlett, on Radford. I was left wanting more out of him. You know, we barely have seen him outside of, I think the last we saw him was that he was one of the lumberjacks in that lumberjack match.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, where's he been? Because he's one of the better new guys that we've seen in a while. But then Marty Jannetty gets tagged in, and he comes in against Pritchard, and I mean, it's just, this is like the complete 80s package going on here. You have two guys just lost in time, and they looked okay together. I also love to hear that Rad Radford is an aspiring body Donna. Did you catch that out of Vince?
Yeah.
So I guess Rad Radford's going to try and get his gut slimmed down a little bit, and he wants to become a body Donna. So I'm interested to see where that goes, because as we just said, I was intrigued by his ring work, so I hope we get to see more out of him soon. With you, Joe, I have to agree about Hakushi. I absolutely loved him in this match, and I think he proved that he could work with pretty much anyone. There isn't a style of wrestler that this guy can't make look good or make himself look good. It was just those leg sweeps, those were great. And of course, the crowd chanting for Barry Horowitz. You gotta love that. Sadly, he didn't last very long after they chanted for him. But neither did Hakushi. That was probably the thing I was the saddest about, was how quickly Hakushi was out of this match. But at the end, then we get Marty Jannetty for a good chunk of this. As you two pointed out, you can't pass up on Mr. Perfect talking about breaking the guy's neck. I mean, just kudos to you. And then it ended. You know, I'm in the same ballpark as Bartlett in that Survivor Series matches are not my favorite. But I thought everyone involved here did a pretty solid job, and I, too, am going to go with a solid 2-star.
All right, Joe, what did Meltzer have to say about this one?
He enjoyed this match. He gave it 3 3/4 stars.
Ooh.
Jeez.
And he didn't add any comments, so 3 3/4 stars.
All right, well, moving along, we had a nice look at Razor trashing the backstage in pure fury at the 1-2-3 Kids win. I thought that was pretty entertaining, seeing him really go to town on that television monitor. And then Petting Zoo. If there's anything that deserves to get trashed in a dressing room, it's Petting Zoo, but we can't have him getting beat up. He's going to be backstage with Jim Cornette, and they are just reacting to Razor's reaction in anticipation of his upcoming wildcard match. He's going to be teamed with Dean Douglas, Owen Hart, and Yokozuna. We get promos from everybody but Yokozuna here. Unfortunately, now, this little segment, it doesn't last. I wish I could say that it did, but it ended pretty quickly, and it takes us then into our next match. Bertha Faye, Aja Kong, Tomoko Watanabe, and Lioness Asuka. They are with Harvey Whippleman. They defeat Alundra Blaze, Kyoko Inoue, Saki Hasegawa, and Chaparita Asari in 10 minutes and 1 second. First note, this was terrible. The most entertaining thing I saw was the pitcher-in-pitcher highlighting the Spanish announce table losing their minds over this match. It was fun. It was more fun for me to watch Carlos Cabrera and the other guy going nuts than the actual match itself. It was telling for me that Mr. Perfect didn't even try to take commentary seriously here. Vince barely kept it together. Between the two of them, it was like almost like a, Beavis and Butthead high school, like snickering to each other, and commentary had to lean on Jim Ross for the majority of the calling here. I suspect it's because he's the only one who knew their names and knew which competitor was which. I mean, they leaned on Ross heavily for this. And for my notes, that's it. That's it for me on this match. Alundra Blaze worked her ass off, but her skill was nowhere near enough to bring this match out of dud territory. And I'll just repeat, it's no wonder that she took that women's championship belt and threw it in the fucking garbage. Ryan, what did you have on this match, please?
Well, I mean, we'll start at the beginning. I got a little bit excited when I seen Alundra Blaze team come out, and it's just a whole group of her Japanese friends. So I'm thinking, this might be like a bunch of bull nakanos in here, and, that could be a very good thing. And I thought, I don't think I was quite as hard on it as you were, because I did think that some of the stuff that these... And I apologize, I don't know their name. We have a bunch of difficult Japanese names here, which this is the first time we've seen them and the last. So their names did not go into my memory, so I apologize for that. But I thought that most of them worked pretty well. I mean, they're a little too small, kind of like, what's that woman that's in AEW? She's like 90 pounds.
Riho.
Right. Good wrestler, just a little bit unbelievable because she's just so small. And that was kind of the case here. And I also agree Alundra looked great. When she got in there, things looked really good. And then it looks like they're setting up a feud with Aja Kong, maybe. Her series with Alundra was not very clean, but you could definitely tell that she's not a bad wrestler. So I kind of think that if they have a few more matches together and work with each other and get the timing down a little bit better, it could be significantly better than the Bertha Faye feud, that's for sure. I don't know if it could be anything great, but better than Bertha Faye. So in the end, I didn't hate it nearly as much as you, and they kept Bertha Faye out of the ring pretty much the whole time. So that was a very good thing. So I ended up giving it 1 star.
Did either of you know this match was happening?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
From us watching Raw, though?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going.
Good call.
We wouldn't have known this was happening. This was a total surprise, and it seemed like Vince McMahon and Mr. Perfect were also surprised that this match was happening based on their commentary. And you can tell they know nothing about it, and they're leaving it all to Jim Ross, like you said, Bartlett. But to me, it seemed like Jim Ross didn't really know that much about them either. I mean, he knew their names. He kind of made some shit up to talk them up, but it didn't seem like he knew a lot about them. One of them did the Sky Twister press move, which was actually pretty impressive and popped the crowd a little bit. But outside of that, this match for me was total trash. I mean, with everything, there were referee botches in this. Now, you guys said that you enjoyed when Alundra was in there, and I was hoping that she would kind of, pick this up a little bit. But to me, this was her worst performance that we've seen. And not necessarily her fault, maybe, but the whole thing was bad for me. And the red face paint that rubbed onto Alundra's ass was not very flattering either for the later part of the match. And this was Aja Kong. They're kind of building her up, but she looked just sloppy to me. Like it just was not good. Dud for me. Sloppy ref work, terrible commentary, sloppy work in the ring. Dave Meltzer, we know that he loves Japanese wrestling and
5-star,
2 3/4 stars.
Wow,
man.
He says
definitely not that.
The All Japan women are remarkably consistent, and I don't think I've seen a match involving this level of talent be as bad as this one in years, and it wasn't all Bertha Faye's fault. So nothing really positive to say there, but 2 3/4 stars. So
yeah, really.
That'll give you an idea where he's coming from.
Yeah. It's funny, especially with that notation at the beginning of our episode here, that he focuses just on the wrestling, because, I mean, there was a shit ton of miscommunication and stutter steps and just kind of pussyfooting through that match. It didn't look good.
The best stuff was when you had one of the unknown people against an unknown person, because you could tell they worked together before.
Yeah. All right, well. Oh boy, petting zoo. More petting zoo. Now he's with President Bill Clinton, and they used the president's confusion of Bam Bam Bigelow and Bam Bam Rubble from the Flintstones to highlight the claim that the Clinton administration is out of touch. This, I think, was just way too sophisticated for me to enjoy. I think this is my problem here. But
starting to get a little too political as well for wrestling.
Yeah. Well, it's highbrow. Anything Clinton is highbrow.
Yeah, right.
But thankfully it was short, and it leads us directly into our next match. Goldust defeats Bam Bam Bigelow by pinfall in 8 minutes and 18 seconds. So in a recent episode, I had wondered aloud about whether Bam Bam Bigelow was comfortable working with Goldust, as some other performers were not comfortable working with Goldust due to the potential for his whole androgynous angle to be perceived as homosexual. I just want to say that I did research that question, and I was not able to find anything out there to back that up. So, for the record, as far as I can tell, Bam Bam Bigelow did not have any issue with the Goldust gimmick. So, like I said, I threw that out there before, and I was way off base with it as far as I can tell, and I just wanted to make sure that's on the record now.
I mean, he possibly has a problem having to job to him, but,
Yeah, that's certainly possible. Oh, the long entryway for this pay-per-view was great for Goldust, I thought. It was fantastic seeing the spectacle drawn out a little bit longer than usual. Much more longer than that would have been kind of annoying, but it was just right. We got a picture-in-picture with the Goldust promo, which was a good promo, but they need to boost the volume on him or mute the background or something, because everything else always drowns out what Goldust is saying. But at the same time, if Goldust was speaking any louder, I don't think it would work as well. Part of the whole awesomeness of his promos are how subdued and bizarre his words are, and you just can't get that if a guy is yelling. So I admit they're between a rock and a hard place there. In the match, I didn't have a whole lot of notes here, guys. Those punches from Goldust on Bam Bam to start the match, those looked great. And I really loved the timing of Goldust escaping the ring under the bottom rope. The way that this started, that was a hot start to me. I thought we were going to have a real, knockdown, drag out kind of fight going on here. And as far as the action goes, that's it. I don't have any more notes, but I do have to point out that this was surprisingly one-sided. It did a great job of highlighting Goldust and putting over Goldust, but man, it buried the shit out of Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam barely got anything done in this match. That being said, though, overall, this was 2 stars for me. It was a serviceable, competent match. that didn't have any flaws, really, that I could see, but also didn't have much to highlight either. Joe, what did you think about it?
I normally enjoy these slow, methodical entrances from back in the day, like Goldust and Undertaker, Razor Ramon, but I thought this one was too long. I don't know why they took so long, but it was obviously something that they had to do for timing. I love the perverted shimmying out of the robe that he does. And Goldust's cock and balls are really protruding through that jumpsuit.
I didn't want to note it because I thought I would be the only one. Holy shit.
It's very
How
noticeable.
could anyone miss it?
Very distracting. The character, to me, maybe the character is definitely getting over a little bit better on TV than to a live crowd. It just seems like the live crowd just doesn't really give a shit about Goldust yet. If Dustin Rhodes doesn't throw the best working punch of all time, he's at least in the top 3 for me. Yeah. It's always great looking. I was thinking near the beginning, like you said, Bartlett, it almost looked like it was going to be this knockdown, drag-out fight. I was thinking, like, they better tighten up these ropes after this, because these guys were hitting the ropes pretty hard, stretching them out there. The other thing I noted was it looked like the crowd was kind of popping in the back after Goldust got the win. Like, I saw a lot of people jump out of their seats after that. So I don't know if this is going the way they really want it to go yet, and we're going to see some changes maybe with it, so we'll see what happens. But I gave this 3 stars. I don't think it gave us anything great, but there wasn't anything particularly bad either, in my opinion. And some sad news here. I think this is Bam Bam's last match in the WWF.
Makes sense.
But I'm not 100% positive, but I think this is the timeline, and I think he's gone after this.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah, and I'm saying that makes sense, not because, Bam Bam looked bad here or anything, but he was told to just go out there and get fucking manhandled and get the shit kicked out of him. Because sadly, that's what happened, and he did a good job of it. I'm not taking away from the ring work of this match at all. At the very beginning, though, I loved Vince saying that Goldust is the personification of Hollywood.
Jeez.
I got a good laugh off of that. But I also liked JR informed us Goldust has been a hot topic on the America Online chat rooms. So I think it would be interesting to see what they were saying in the chat rooms back at that time. Like you guys, when this started off, they were really exchanging some nice blows, and I liked the spot at the beginning where Goldust slapped Bam Bam, and then Bam Bam retaliated with like a double chest slap that just sent Goldust to the ground. He crumbled. I mean, he sold it like a champ. I know you said the crowd might not have been completely behind it, but there was one spot where Goldust clotheslines Bam Bam out of the ring, and he gets a little bit of a boo out of the crowd, and he immediately decides to capitalize that, and he climbs up to the top rope and does his chest rub breathe thing, and, he gets even more boos. So I thought that was a really good job of playing up the heel character out of Goldust there. And Mr. Perfect responds with that he disturbs him, so I thought that was nice. But then we get back to the match where Bam Bam doesn't really get anything going after that. He's not able to string together a second move for the rest of the match. He might hit one punch or a slam, but then it is immediately stopped by Goldust, who basically just starts slapping him around. And then towards the end, Bam Bam finally looked like he was going to get a bit of a rally going, but immediately Goldust nails his finisher and it's over. I didn't think this was a bad match by any means. The ring work was great. I feel so bad for Bam Bam. I mean, he's just a stepping stone here. And, I completely agree with Dave, and it sounds like that's what's happening here, but Bam Bam needs to head to Japan and leave the WWF because they are treating him like garbage. But as far as actual work goes by both of these guys, I agree with Joe. I thought this was a 3-star match. I just feel bad for Bam Bam.
What'd Meltzer say?
Seems like he hated it. He gave it 1 star. He said that Goldust's entrance is supposed to be the heel equivalent of The Undertaker, but it came off as long and boring. The two did not work well together, although not from a lack of effort.
I wonder who told him that it's supposed to be the heel equivalent of Undertaker. Like where he got that idea from. Because, I mean, I can kind of see it, but at the same time, it seems like it's giving the WWF too much credit.
I mean, not to mention that, the Undertaker started off as a heel to begin with, so.
Yeah. All right, well, more time with petting Zoo and Clinton. This time he's going to bring Bob Backlund into the mix. I'm not even going to go there.
That's a mark in the negative.
Okay, well, good. I was about to ask. Bob Backlund shit the bed on this one. He could barely remember his lines, and let me just mark here. Okay. Another hash mark in the con section. Thank you for anticipating that. This whole section here with Backlund, it took too long for my taste, but good times with Petting Zoo continues as he does the voiceover for the video package, highlighting the ongoing angle between The Undertaker and King Mabel. That will lead us into our next match. The Dark Side, consisting of The Undertaker, Savio Vega, Make a Difference Fatu, and Henry O. Godwin, defeats the Royals, consisting of King Mabel, Jerry the King Lawler, Isaac Yankem, DDS, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley, accompanied by Sir Mo, in 14 minutes and 21 seconds. I continue to love Savio Vega's energy. He gets Godwin to do some quick dancing with him there, and just when I think Savio can't get any higher in my book, he just keeps on climbing. It's to the point where I look forward to finding out that Savio Vega is on the match card. I genuinely look forward to his matches.
Wait till next month.
Oh, yeah? Is this some doom and gloom here? Are you going to fuck with me on this one?
I can't tell.
At the next pay-per-view, the next In Your House, the Christmas one, he is who has the pleasure of wrestling Santa Claus.
Oh.
Well, maybe we should skip that one.
Well, that doesn't do anything to excite me, unfortunately. What did excite me was we got our first look at The Undertaker with his Phantom of the Opera mask. It's put over pretty well as being disturbing instead of cartoony. This was like a very fine line with me. I remembered it from back in the day, and getting fresh eyes on it now, it's just up to that line. If they would have gone any farther with it, it would have just looked ridiculous, but it looks fairly good on him, I think. People really need to just stop hitting Fatu in the head. Like, I don't know, they need to just send out a memo amongst the heels. Like, I don't want to see his reflexive dancing anymore. The time for dancing ends when the bell rings. Like, god damn, you'd think that somebody would learn. Don't hit the fucker in the head. I got confused when Sir Mo spent some time working on Godwin through the ropes because Sir Mo was wearing a black and white striped shirt, and I was wondering why the hell a referee was interfering in the match. And I realized, oh shit, that's Sir Mo.
He got me confused a couple times with that fake ref outfit.
Yeah, well, it finally made up my mind. Like, it should have happened a long time ago, but it made up my mind in this match that Sir Mo has got to go. I loved the full military press on Hunter Hearst Helmsley from Godwin. My goodness, he held him up there for a while. Like, that was some impressive shit that, I'm not saying that I didn't think Godwin was capable of it, but it surprised me that he did it, and it surprised me that he did it so well and for so long. Godwin is another professional that I just appreciate more and more as time goes on. I look forward to his matches. I like Glenn Jacobs here in this match, but man, do I hate the gimmick. I can't wait to get through Fake Diesel and into Kane because he needs to come into his own. I'm tired of this shit. And I love The Undertaker's choke slam over the ropes on Hunter Hearst Helmsley. But I hated the finish. 3 quick pins and then Mabel running away. This didn't do anything to satisfy me after the build-up. Not that I was like all that excited for it, but honestly, I was getting ready to give this a better rating. But then we got to that finish, and that finish solidified a 1-star rating for me. Ryan, as the resident asshole for The Undertaker, what did you think of the return of the Phenom here?
I'll start this off by saying, as the resident asshole for The Undertaker, my rating maybe is a bit high for most people. I'll just start with that. But I did enjoy Jim Ross at the beginning saying that Mabel weighed in at 568 pounds, and that was before breakfast today. Great line by Ross. And then to see Team Darkside come down, and they all have on an Undertaker shirt, and even Fatu's wearing the BSK beanie. So I thought that was pretty great. I thought they did a really good job with The Undertaker during his entrance here. They did a good job of keeping it dark and the camera low enough that you still couldn't see the mask, at least not a good shot of the mask. And they just continue to build that suspense until finally the lights come on and they reveal his Phantom of the Opera mask. And I agree, it was bordering that line, but I thought they made it work with the way the commentary handled it, and I thought it looked pretty good. And then Fatu and Hunter start off, two Hall of Famers. You know, they look good together. And really, most of the people in this match look good. You had Lawler, whose sole purpose was to come in and be a coward, and so that was annoying. It's sad that Lawler just plays a joke at this point. And of course, Mabel, he's never going to do anything that great, but everyone else really looked good in this. Unlike you, Bartlett, I loved the end of this. As an Undertaker, lover, I thought this was a great way to bring him back and just make him look like an unstoppable monster. He just comes in here and just fucking runs through all three people. And then you have Mabel come in, he applies the move that supposedly shattered The Undertaker's face, and we get the iconic sit-up from The Undertaker. I could do with or without Mabel running out, because I think the only thing that makes that sad for me is that means this is going to continue even further, the Mabel-Undertaker feud. But I thought it did its job of making The Undertaker look like an unstoppable phenom. And, I was sucking it up. That choke slam from outside the ring on Hunter was phenomenal. That is the type of shit I want to see out of The Undertaker. Like I said, I loved seeing The Undertaker return like this, and I gave it 3 stars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went into this thinking, why even have teams at all? Why not just do Undertaker versus Mabel, but who the hell wants to see that?
Exactly. Exactly.
Having these other guys is nice, and Savio Vega, Henry Godwin, and Fatu, they have a lot of swagger with their entrance, and it's very enjoyable when they come out. And the production of the Undertaker's entrance, I just love it. Not showing the face. Commentators are staying quiet until he reaches the ring, which was nice. Vince wasn't saying anything annoying until The Undertaker got up the steps. Mabel's hair looks excellent tonight, unlike that last Raw. Yeah. He's got it in that big mohawk, which was pretty cool looking.
Does look good.
Jerry Lawler's singlet looks horrible, though, however. But that bright gold was not very flattering on him. And I am always impressed at how well Fatu works for a fat guy. He is just athletic as hell. I can't get over it. And did you guys notice that Mr. Perfect called Helmsley Triple H?
Yes.
During this match.
I missed that.
Nice little nugget there.
Said he prefers it.
Yeah. What a hot tag for Undertaker. I mean, this was just... Ryan, you mentioned Lawler was kind of doing the afraid gimmick, which was kind of silly and stupid, but he really did a nice job when he was selling in the ring for The Undertaker after that hot tag. This was the first time, I think, that Hunter was pinned in the ring, right?
You're correct. He's undefeated leading into this, yes.
So you think about that, you could overthink that and say, oh, it kind of buried him here, but it's The Undertaker, so who cares, Yeah,
everyone got buried to him.
Right.
Yeah.
But what a showcase for The Undertaker. I have been complaining for a long time now about how The Undertaker has been booked, but I've also been saying for the last few weeks, I've loved this build-up for this, and I thought it was very well done. I gave this 4 stars because of the overall show. I didn't think the wrestling was great. I would have given it 5 stars if Mo would have actually been driven through the mat on that choke slam. But I stopped at 4.
Choke slam to hell.
My goodness.
Dave Meltzer gave this 1.5 star. He said, Not much for wrestling, but the booking was good.
Well, pre-match commentary is going to be next, and we get that from Bret Hart and Diesel. They're going to talk about facing the British Bulldog if they win the championship match, and by that I mean whoever wins the championship match later already has a match booked with the Bulldog for the next pay-per-view. Bret gave us an excellent promo. It did a great job of getting me ready for their match tonight. Diesel's promo was not as good as that interview last week, but better than most of his promos. Bret was the winner of the promo war here, in my opinion.
Isn't it funny that Diesel's giving his best promo work now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not for the last 6 to 9 months.
Petting Zoo is going to be backstage with Cornette and DiBiase getting us ready for the wild card 4-on-4, which is going to be our next match. Shawn Michaels, Ahmed Johnson, the British Bulldog, and Psycho Sid, with the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase and Jim Cornette, defeated Razor Ramon, Yokozuna, Owen Hart, Dean Douglas. They're there with Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette, kinda too, in 27 minutes and 24 seconds. Owen Hart looked great in the ring with Shawn Michaels. That's one of those matchups that I just want to see more and more and more and more. I think that would be an excellent match. I loved Mr. Fuji standing in front of the hard camera and waving the Japanese flag throughout this entire match. There were many times where you couldn't see a single thing happening in the ring. Owen and the Bulldog, their time in the ring looked great together. That was some good stuff there. There was too much time wasted, I felt, when Michaels and Razor were both tagged in. They really milked that way longer than they should have, being hesitant about going against each other and just gesturing about like, we gotta do this, I guess, and it just lasted way too long. And this match kind of went downhill for me after that point in it. There wasn't much that was able to keep my attention other than wondering why somebody isn't telling Fuji to get the hell out of the way of the hard camera the entire half hour. Like, just a referee. Somebody. Hey, pal, move it on over. Wrong side. Something. It was funny laughing along with Mr. Perfect as Ahmed Johnson kept selling across the ring while walking away from the setup with Razor Ramon. Did you guys see that?
Yes.
He just kept on selling. And Razor had to get down off of the top rope and follow him across the ring. Yokozuna's Banzai drop looked like every one of Yoko's vertebrae should have all imploded at the same time. It's a damn good thing there was nobody alive underneath him for that. And that's it for me. This match went on too long and highlighted just about all of the reasons I dislike these 4-on-4s, so I'm going with a dud rating on this one. Joe, what did you think of the wild card match?
Well, we'll start off by saying that Ahmed Johnson has about 40 gallons of baby oil on his body coming out to the ring. I was laughing when I saw Shawn Michaels doing his striptease entrance and Yokozuna's standing like 3 feet away from him, just staring at him the entire time. It was hilarious. And speaking of Shawn Michaels, there was a sweet chin music that didn't really connect very well. I want to say, it wasn't on Sid because they were on the same team, right?
Right.
I can't remember who it was on, but I just remember there was a sweet chin music that didn't really connect. And then the British Bulldog came in to interfere and completely fanned on a leg drop.
Yeah.
Just totally missed it. And Razor Ramon and Ahmed Johnson are in the ring together. And I just heard talking the entire time. Like they were going over every move, I think. So pretty sloppy work, but I have to say that I was going to give this 2 stars, but I'll give it 3 because I did like the finish, and I like Shawn Michaels giving Ahmed Johnson the rub here. He went out there and made Ahmed Johnson look good, set him up for the win. That was nice, so I gave it 3.
You know, we were talking about long entrances, and when you put together everyone's entrance in this one, it had to take up 20 fucking minutes. I mean, they gave everyone a long entrance for this one. And that, kind of extended. You have a 27-minute match plus a 20-minute entrance. It's pretty long. But we had a lot of good wrestlers here, though. Starting off with Owen and Shawn in the ring was definitely a good decision. They are never going to disappoint. I have to point out, Michaels does a nice-looking head scissors that sends Owen over the top rope and onto the floor. I thought that was pretty good. And then Dean Douglas comes in, and he actually works with Michaels pretty well, too. I mean, some of the best we've seen out of Douglas, I thought. We've seen a couple matches with Douglas and Razor that have been, lackluster, to put it nicely. So it was good to see him work with Shawn and it not be terrible. And then Yoko comes in with Johnson, and, I was excited to see that, but Yoko doesn't really do anything. He comes in and does a back rake, and then he tags out. I mean, that's basically it. And then there's like a cartoon spot where Ahmed tags to Michaels, and he picks up Michaels and just throws him at Dean Douglas for a nice-looking crossbody. And that was bordering the line of too cartoony, but I thought it kind of worked. And then there's, Owen Hart and the Bulldog. I mean, there's a matchup. These guys have seen each other hundreds of times, and it showed. Everything they did was quick pace and crisp. But there was a lot of uncrisp things in this match. That Razor's Edge was, he was even up on the second rope for him. It still looked sloppy. And then before that, you had a Razor's Edge to Shawn Michaels, who's, I don't know, Shawn Michaels is like 150 pounds, but it was still like Razor struggled with it. So I don't know what's going on there. And, we've seen that a lot with the Razor's Edge. And I think it is just too difficult of a finisher for anyone that is not basically a 90-pound welterweight. Anytime someone's a little bit heavier, it looks like he struggles with it. But outside of that, they did a pretty good job up until chaos happens at the end. And by the end, we're left with just Yoko, the guy who has zero gas. He has nothing in the tank, and we're going to leave him for the end. This could have ended a lot worse because of some of the people in this match, but all in all, it was an okay match, I felt. And I ended up in between you two, and I gave it a 2-star. I do have to bring up one thing, though, that I think Bartlett, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, you brought up if Yoko being body slammed by Ahmed kind of kills the allure of him being a monster. And I didn't necessarily agree with you then, but after the ending of this match, I think I have to agree with you. Ahmed came in and basically manhandled Yoko, and I think kind of took away Yoko being a monster anymore.
Yeah, I tend to agree with it. He tried to body slam him, like 3 more times in this match and succeeded once. Yeah. So, nobody can really claim that for Yoko anymore, I don't think.
I look at it the other way a little bit where, man, they really put the rocket ship on Ahmed Johnson, and he ended up fucking it up a couple years later. But yeah, I see your point for sure.
I mean, that's definitely a valid point, too, on Ahmed. I mean, they really are putting the fucking rocket ship on him for that shit.
Yeah, I don't remember any of this, so I'm sure a lot of our listeners might not remember. Yeah. Like, hey, I remember Ahmed Johnson, but I don't remember them giving him this kind of push early on.
And with his look, I mean, it makes sense. But.
Yeah.
And Ryan, I'm glad you brought up about the Razor's Edge, because it's one of those things that I always think about whenever I see it happening, but then kind of forget about afterwards. There's a saying, and I forget who said it, but the best finisher is a finisher that you can perform on anybody, anywhere. And yeah, whenever somebody's just a touch too heavy, and Scott Hall's a pretty tall fucking guy. I mean, that's a lot of height to get somebody up into that move. That has to take a lot of strength and stamina to be able to do that. And it's understandable that he can't pull that off with everybody.
Yeah.
And, it sucks, though, because he's kind of stuck with it now. Not stuck, but
Well, because it is impressive looking when it's pulled off cleanly.
Oh, yeah.
But way too often it looks ugly.
Yeah, and then contrast that with, the sweet chin music. It looks great every time. So, not...
Unless you miss it.
Not in this one so much, but I mean, broadly speaking. So, Joe, what did Meltzer think of this wild card thing?
He likes wild cards, apparently. He gave it 3.5 stars.
Ooh, jeez. Well, something that does not deserve any stars whatsoever is this next segment with Petting Zoo and Mr. President. This time, Sunny's there, and she's sitting on Mr. President's lap, and this was just plain shitty. I couldn't think of a better way to put it than that. The Clinton impersonator was just being extremely sexually inappropriate with Sunny to the point of dumping popcorn down her shirt, and there's all kinds of sexual innuendo and, positions on the staff or just shit like that.
Undersecretary.
Yeah, I'm sure that back in 95, this was all hip and edgy and playing with that kind of reputation that Clinton had, but it just did not age well at all.
I gotta say, I was surprised they didn't have her in a blue dress, to be honest with you.
Well, that happens later. We're a little early for old Monica on this one.
And that's what makes it amazing, too. Like, they're making fun of him for being a huge pervert, and then he ends up being a gigantic pervert in real life later.
Yeah. Well, no, he had already had a couple problems.
Yeah, but I mean, that was all just allegedly. But then it was official that this guy's a disgusting pervert after stuff like this. So, and I don't know, they could have maybe just pulled somebody else to do this. Why did they have to use Sunny for this in a dress? She wasn't even, she was out there in her Body Donna's gear earlier, and now she's in a dress on Clinton's lap. It just didn't make sense. It didn't connect.
Especially because at this point, we're still playing up that she is with Chris Candido, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that, I didn't care for that. But there's more video packages coming up next. These are going to highlight the main event championship match tonight with quotes and scenes from both Diesel and Bret Hart. Commentary at ringside here. They're going to give us their opinions on the outcome of the title bout. Mr. Perfect picks Bret Hart. Jim Ross picks Diesel. And that, gentlemen, is going to take us into our main event. Bret the Hitman Hart defeats Diesel by pinfall in 24 minutes and 54 seconds in a no disqualification match to win the WWF Championship. My first note was, God, I hope there's little to no interference in this match. I just wanted to get that on the record going into it. I didn't care for Bret Hart constantly running away from Diesel at the start. I get the strategy, trying to let Diesel wear himself down, but this didn't make me view Bret as an underdog or feel excited to see him work himself up. It just kind of, I don't know, it didn't sell it for me. I was finally getting interested, though, when Bret started fighting back and fighting dirty. Biting and hair pulling, that was some pretty good stuff to see. After Diesel got his leg tied to the ring post, I wish I would have timed how long it took for him to decide to try to untie it. He had quite a few opportunities to do so, but I felt like he spent way too much time stuck there. He finally does, though, and I admit that it is a decent piece of storytelling, kind of hampering him and trapping him there so that he can't do anything. But, at least, silver linings, at least it took him forever to untie the knot. It must have been a pretty good knot. They even joke about it with commentary, saying that Bret Hart must have been a Boy Scout. At this point in the match, I realized that I wasn't noting any positives, so I wanted to change that, and I do think that both competitors were doing a fantastic job of selling the injuries and exhaustion, and working that aspect of the storytelling into the action. That's something that they did very, very well after, I'd say, probably about the 1/3 point of the match. Really right after Diesel gets out of his little hog tie situation there in the corner. But just selling the exhaustion and just going through it all. Diesel selling the knee and the leg. I was shocked at Bret Hart being put through the Spanish announce table. I can't understate that enough. I was shocked. My jaw dropped. That came out of nowhere. And that really made my ears perk up a little bit. That got me back into this. Unfortunately, that was towards the end of the match, but I absolutely loved the finish with Bret Hart luring Diesel into the small package roll-up out of nowhere. That popped me, and it popped me hard. And I liked Diesel losing his shit in the aftermath, jackknifing Bret twice, punching referees, becoming the heel he should have been all along. It was the most enjoyment I've gotten out of fucking Diesel in damn near a year. So, this one was really hard for me to rate because, for me, the first 20 minutes of this 25-minute match, I didn't think they were all that great, to be honest, but that last 5 minutes, that managed to bump it up quite a bit for me. So I'm putting this match at a solid 3 stars, which I think is the highest rating I've ever given a Diesel match. Ryan, what did you think about our main event tonight?
Yeah, one of the best we've seen Diesel in. That's what I'm going to agree with you there. And at the beginning of this, I thought that Diesel and Bret Hart did a good job in the storytelling here of making Diesel the aggressor, stronger wrestler. He keeps on kind of grabbing Bret Hart and throwing him back in the corner so he could punch him more. I thought that stuff was pretty good, and Diesel's punches actually looked fairly realistic, unlike a lot of other times we've seen him. And then we moved to the outside, and, this stuff looked pretty good too. Diesel slams Hart against the crowd barrier, and I thought this was one of the better times that we've used Diesel's size in a match to the story. I was taken back for a moment when they said, "Can you think of anyone that could compete with this 7-foot monster?" And I'm thinking to myself, didn't we just have another 7-foot monster that just plowed through like 3 people a few minutes ago? So I think maybe there's someone in the business that could compete with him, but whatever, we'll move on. I really thought the match picked up when Bret Hart decided to basically go heel. When he jumped on Diesel's back and he started to, it looked like he was trying to maybe rip his jaw apart while he raked his eyes. I don't care what it was. It was heelish for sure, but I loved it because I love heel Bret Hart. I think that is by far the best Bret Hart version there is when he is doing whatever he can to win a match. And at that point, he starts working on Diesel's knee, and I get a little bit sad. I get some flashbacks to the British Bulldog match. But the one good thing that the Hitman did, opposed to the Bulldog, was he started doing how to put it. He started doing moves instead of holds on the leg. And that leads to a lot more excitement than just watching someone sit there and wrench on a knee for 5 minutes. Like, the one part where he has his leg up on the ropes and he's just, launching himself up and then coming back down on the knee. It's just more exciting to watch something like that. And Vince, he says, what a devastating maneuver. And, that was probably the, 100th or 200th time we've heard that. It made me wonder, in a long major pay-per-view like this, how many times do you think Vince utters the word maneuver? I'd like a count on that.
That sounds like a challenge.
I, too, really enjoyed when the Hitman got put through the table at the end. To be honest, I thought both guys did a very good job of effectively using this DQ rule. It was never overdone, I thought. I thought it was just kind of here and there they would use it. I thought it was a little funny when they decided to grab a chair, they grabbed the padded one. So for everyone in the audience at the arena, I'm sure that looked fine. But anyone at home, you're like, well, he's hitting them with 3 inches of padding there. I don't know how much damage that's doing, but. And I liked Jim Ross giving us a little factoid that this was Bret Hart's 41st pay-per-view with the WWF. That's damn impressive.
Yeah.
And I thought this was a good match. I thought this was a solid 3-star match. It's sad that the best Diesel match we've got, I think the only one that hasn't been a dud, is when he finally loses the belt. So, that's unfortunate for him, but hey, it's a plus for us.
Yeah, really good psychology at the beginning of this match for sure. And my thought going into it was, I hope they don't overdo the injury thing in this match, either one of these guys. And like you said, Ryan, they started to go there, but they didn't cross the line. So that was nice to see. I think one thing that Bret Hart doesn't really get a lot of credit for is how innovative he can be, especially during this time, because the mic cable thing was a nice touch, in my opinion. I do think Diesel was tied up a little too long, like you mentioned, Bartlett, but I liked it. I liked that he was doing that. I liked he was doing the biting and the heel stuff. Going through the table, let me just say, that actually was a devastating maneuver because they didn't clear monitors.
Yeah.
Like they do now. The table was not overly gimmicked like the tables are now. Like, he went through that table with all that shit on it.
It looked like a pretty solid table.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's impressive. I think that's probably the first time that has happened on WWF TV during this time. I don't think that ever happened.
I don't remember a table spot happening since we've been watching.
Yeah.
And obviously Sabu was doing it in ECW during this time, but for here, I think that's the first time. And the finish was really nice too, with Bret kind of playing dead and then getting that quick roll up. And, you know, they got the chairs involved. Again, a lot of stuff you don't see in 1995 was happening. So I just want to point out how innovative it was. This is a no DQ match, so the one thing that really annoyed me during this match was, why is Earl Hebner constantly yelling at the guys to stop doing what they're... I was just very confused by that.
Yeah, I mean, commentary tried to cover for him, like saying, well, he's in a tough spot and, you know, all this, but yeah.
I didn't get that, but outside of that, I really liked this match, and Diesel yelling motherfucker at the end and losing his mind, and I got to be honest, I don't remember Diesel at all from this time until he left for WCW. I don't remember at all. So I'm kind of looking forward to where this goes. I understand that I guess he was doing sort of a tweener gimmick. He wasn't really a babyface or a heel. He kind of went in between. So I'm excited to see that. I think it's going to be a fresh start for Diesel here because he was clearly not comfortable in a full-blown babyface role. I was curious, so I'm giving this match 4 stars because I think that the entire thing was very well laid out and it was a good story. And we got the belt off of Diesel.
Yeah.
And it made sense. I actually was curious. I went back. I gave their Royal Rumble match 2 stars. And we all gave Shawn Michaels versus Diesel at WrestleMania 3 stars. So
wow,
it was nice to see that I went from 2 to 3 with Shawn and then 4 here. So it's like really, it's just so disappointing. Like, man, this guy has had this belt for a year and he finally had a great, great match. But like, who cares now at this point? Dave Meltzer gave it 3.5 stars and he didn't really add too many comments.
You were saying you don't remember this time, this tweener time with Diesel. And
yeah.
I have a vague remembrance of, I think he has a feud with The Undertaker coming up.
I think they have a match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I think, eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't really remember it.
I remember the match for sure. That's one I definitely watched. I remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember any of his stuff after this either, now that you mention it. All right. Well, that rounds out the action, and what rounds out the pay-per-view overall is a video package highlighting the events of the night. Commentary gives us a final look at the carnage in the ring, and we fade to black. So guys, we've got a new thing here. We've talked about it in the past. I'm going to make it official. The final question, instead of highlights and lowlights like we do for our episodes of Raw, the final question for the pay-per-view is going to be, did you get your money's worth? And I'll start off. I'm just going to say that at a price of $29.95 from your local cable provider, I think I maybe would have gotten my money's worth if I had split the cost with you guys, if we had, gotten together and pitched in on it, but not if I was footing the bill myself. So, Joe, what did you think? Did you get your money's worth from this?
I would say I did. I personally think this is the best pay-per-view of the year so far.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, I didn't give anything less than 3 stars other than the women's match. I wouldn't be opposed to watching this again. I thought it was a very, very good event.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I thought that this I thought I got my money's worth. The first match was pretty solid. I loved the dominant return of The Undertaker. And I also loved the final match with Bret Hart finally getting the belt and Diesel putting up a good match for us. I mean, this Survivor Series, as I've mentioned in the past, not one of my favorite pay-per-views, but yeah, one of the best we've seen to date. And I'm looking back over my notes here, and I think this might be the first pay-per-view that I did not give out a single dud rating. So yeah, I think I got my money's worth.
Good.
It's interesting too that if you watch this as a standalone event, it might not be as good. The fact that we watched all of this build up, like with The Undertaker and with Diesel and Bret, like it makes it a lot better, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Absolutely. So, Joe, what's the breakdown of the numbers? How's it looking on that end?
Well, just a little trivia note here. This is the first Survivor Series to take place on a Sunday night. These were usually held on either Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving Eve, and this was the first one to happen on a Sunday. It was the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and I listened to Bruce Pritchard's podcast, and he actually said that they thought the buy rate was a little bit worse on the Sunday after, so they ended up moving Survivor Series to the Sunday before Thanksgiving, moving forward. And it was funny because he said he blamed it on travel, and you want to kind of laugh at that, but Ryan, you and I kind of know with, our families being hours away, how bad that travel is on that Sunday after Thanksgiving. So he's not lying. I don't know if that's, the main reason for a low buy rate, but I mean,
there could certainly be a possibility that I would not make it home in time, depending on the traffic on the old Pennsylvania Turnpike.
Yes. The readers for the Wrestling Observer, they gave this 73% thumbs up, 14.2% thumbs down, and 12.8% in the middle. So I think overall it was very well received.
Much better than the last pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yes. The best match was voted as Bret Hart versus Diesel, and the worst match was voted as Goldust versus Bam Bam Bigelow by a lot. Like it was not even close. Yes.
That's interesting.
No, more than the women's match.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I would think, my goodness.
Dave Meltzer really shit on that match too, and I don't understand because I didn't see bad work. I just felt sad for Bam Bam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess... I don't know. Maybe it was just disappointment that they're doing this to Bam Bam. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's how the fans felt at the time. A few notes here. Bret Hart captured the title for the 3rd time. He is only the 2nd person to do this. Do you guys know who the other one is?
You mean who would have done it before or any time?
Before.
All right.
Yeah,
Hulk Hogan?
He was only the 2nd person. Yes, Hulk Hogan. Yeah. So Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart during this time, up to November 1995, were the only two to ever win the heavyweight title 3 times. So pretty impressive. Dave Meltzer also notes that Mr. Perfect appeared to have not been following what had been going on closely and seemed to have little knowledge of current storylines and overall did a poor job. I kind of agree with that in some parts, but I didn't think he was terrible.
Yeah, I thought he gave some good comments here and there, but I kind of agree with Dave. There was a lot of spots where he just kind of seemed lost.
Clearly didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. But at the same time, from the opposite angle, for somebody that literally just walked in the door, he did do a pretty good job not knowing what was going on and kind of fitting himself in as best as he could.
And he tried to kind of make that clear, saying, well, I haven't been here in 2 years, but that isn't how that happened when I was here, type of a thing.
Yeah. The show was not a sellout. The crowd was estimated to be about 14,000. And another little note here is that Public Enemy worked a dark match against the Smoking Guns during this event. And Dave Meltzer thinks that this was just kind of a one-shot deal with Public Enemy. And overall, Dave Meltzer's comments on the event, He notes that he had high expectations for the show. It was a good show, but perhaps for that reason, only one match, being the opener, was as good as I expected it to be. Bret Hart versus Diesel had very good psychology, but I thought both of their prior matches were better. Other men's matches were good, but nothing memorable. The women's match was a big disappointment, but you gave it 2 3/4 stars. Yeah. The Undertaker match was effective for storytelling, but the work was not great. Goldust still is not over. His costume was almost lewd, and his match was another disappointment. That is pretty much all I have noted from the Observer on this event.
Yeah, they really need to put a cup and a jockstrap on Goldust.
or at least loosen the fabric up around his crotch or something.
Well, for some reason, it was this particular jumpsuit that was really bad. I mean, the other ones were kind of like that, but not as bad.
Well, it doesn't help whenever he stands up in the corner and does his like body swish up thing where he like pretty much like presses his hands against his junk and like sticks it out in front for everybody to see. So
jiggles it around.
All right. Well, that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us, and if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on every major social media and podcast subscription platform by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. While you're there, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know about the fastest growing wrestling podcast in the world. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be taking a look at the Raw that aired on November 20th, 1995, with matches featuring Savio Vega, Owen Hart, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.